Hi guys, and welcome back to another video game with Powers. I'm Jake. In today's video, I'll be giving you my review of the second edition of Sanssouci, the board game coming to you from Imperial Publishing and Michael Kiesling. Michael Kiesling is the designer of the famous game Azul, alright? So Sanssouci has been dubbed as the Azul Killer, or Carcassonne, but fun. And essentially, the premise of the game is you are tasked with redesigning the garden or the palace of Sanssouci. And so it has those elements of Azul and Carcassonne where you're going to be playing cards, drafting tiles, and then putting these tiles in your garden to move the palace guards through your garden as they inspect your garden to be able to score points. Before I dive into my review, guys, we have not done a how to play of this, so we're going to jump down to the table. Got the top camera set up. We're going to go ahead and jump down to the table. I'm going to give you a quick, brief synopsis of how to play the game, and then we will be back up top here for the rest of my review. So let's go ahead and jump down to the table where I got everything set up. Alright guys, so we are down here at the table where I got everything set up for a game of Sanssouci. Please bear with me here as I get the adjustments right for this top camera, but I think I got everything in view. If it's a little fuzzy, I will fix it as necessary. But basically the premise of Sanssouci, like I said, you'll have a tile bag. You have the main board, which is over here on the left with the tiles that you can draft from. You have the score around the board, and then each character is going to get a character board that looks like this. So essentially what's going to happen is, like I said, each player is going to have a deck of cards like so. And from these cards, you'll have a couple different versions. If I can find the other one here, you'll have colors, you'll have icons, and then you'll have wild, all right? So what's going to happen is that on your turn, you will play a card. So if you have the color card, right, so it's either the black or the blue, you come over to the board over here, the drafting board, and you will be able to draft a tile from either the blue row or the black row. Now, whatever tile you draft from that color row, that's where it has to go in this area over here. So for example, let's say I played a blue, I want to draft a tile from the blue, so I'm going to draft this blue tile right here. So I'll look on my board to see where it matches, and it's this row right here. I would have to place this tile in that blue row, okay? If you ever draft a tile and the spot is already covered, what you would do is you would then flip this tile over. So for example, let's say I had another one and I did 4. You would flip this tile over and you would be able to put it anywhere in the row, okay? If this row is already completely filled, you would be able to put it anywhere in the column of the color. What these guys do is, these workers, or gardeners is what they call them, is they just help extend the rows, but they will not be able to score any points, all right? And you'll see how that works in just a second. So once you've selected your tile, you put your tile in there, you now have the option to move one of these palace workers down the row in order to score points. So they can move through multiple rows, but wherever row they start in, they have to finish in that row, okay? So for example, taking a look at this little guy right here in the last row, if I had something like this, I can move him down all the way to the 4th row, and I would now score 4 points, all right? Like I said earlier, if there ever is a garden tile, a palace guard can never stop on a gardener tile and score those points, so you basically lose out. But like I said, they can go through the different rows. So for example, this guy, you see how he's blocked from getting to this 3 spot? He can move down through the gardener and over to this spot in order to score 3 points. So they can move through other rows, they just have to start and finish in the same row that they're in, okay? So that is essentially drafting a tile. Like I said, you have 3 types of cards: color cards, icon cards, which you would just choose that respective tile. If there is no such tile like this in play, this now becomes a wild. And then this is a wild. You can choose any tile on the board, okay? The game is played over 20 rounds, I believe. That's how many cards are in this deck. After the end of 20 rounds, you'll basically score up the most points, and whoever has the most points is the winner, all right? And whenever you refill from the bag, you'll just go ahead and draw another tile from the bag and place it in the spot that it is finished in. The last thing real quick, actually, is there are other scoring objective cards. So you'll get 2 of them, and this just basically states whatever position that your palace guard finishes in this row, that's how many points you would score at the end of the game. So if this guy never moved from this 3 position, at the end of the game, you would score an additional 3 points. So that is a quick synopsis on how to play Sanssouci, the board game. Let's go ahead and jump back up top for the rest of my review. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed that quick how to play, and hope you were able to understand it. Very quick, very easy game. Let's go ahead and dive right into my review here. All right, starting off with the theme, okay? I'm gonna go ahead and give this a 7 out of 10. Man, I really wanted to give this theme higher. Like I said, essentially the theme is you're a contractor or a project manager, and I don't know if they had project managers back then, contractor, and you are designed with rebuilding the new palace, right? And so you're drafting these tiles, and you're putting them in your board, and I love the mechanics, right? It has that Azul and Carcassonne feel with the palace guards, a very Euro style type game, and that's what I'm all for and love with. The only thing for me though that detracts it from being an 8 and makes it a 7 is that end scoring objective of being able to score more points based upon where your palace guard is at the end of the game. I really feel that really detracts a lot from the game, because it essentially then becomes a race to see who can complete those objectives. And so it detracts from the theme of the game of building this palace and you like designing it yourself, because those 2 cards basically force you to go for those tiles, and so that's all your objective is the whole game. So you kind of lose focus and enjoy of excitement of the theme of redesigning the palace and all that stuff, and are just trying to race to get those tiles to complete that objective, to get that guaranteed 6 points for each of those cards, giving you 12 points total. And I think that does hurt the game a little bit, and so that's why I'm giving this a 7 instead of an 8. But mechanically, the game is very sound and it works really, really well. So 7 out of 10 here for me with the theme. All right, moving on to the components. As always, guys, we're going to jump down to the table. I'm going to go ahead and show off these components for you, and then we will be back up top here for the rest of my review. All right, guys, so taking a look at the components we have here, I'm going to go ahead and give these components a 7 out of 10, right? I think these are good components, but there's nothing super fancy about them, right? All of these cards are Euro, that small Euro style type mini card. They do have a nice gloss finish to them. The artwork on the card is fantastic. My only qualm with some of the artwork, however, is some of the pictures don't actually match the tile itself. So like this shrubbery, if I can find another shrubbery tile, well, like actually here's a good example. So this palace card right here. So you see the shape of the palace, all right? Now if you look on the board, there's a bunch of different palaces. So here's the shape of 1, 2, 3, 4 of this one, right? But then you have like this one and this other one. And so it's very confusing when you see these tiles and you're trying to place it in this row, because it doesn't really match any of the other tiles in the row if you look at it, right? So that's the only confusing part about some of the artwork and some of the iconography in the game. But the cards are nice, standard Euro style cards. The board is a nice thick cardboard. It feels nice in the hand. It's got good durability. The cardboard punch out tokens are nice and thick, again, really cool. And then you just have basic meeples. So each player is going to have these little palace guard meeples in their color. They'll have a point tracker in their color, and then they'll have an extra extended victory point marker. So, well, last thing actually, the bag. The bag is pretty cool. Have a nice little bag here, and then let's take a look at the storage system. I love the storage system here of just having everything sorted out. It does come with an expansion. You got like a wild boar expansion and things like that. So putting the game back is very easy and everything fits perfectly. So that's really cool about the game as well. So again, nothing super fancy about the game here, but I don't think it needs to be deluxeified because this is a clean, simple type of game. All right, let's go ahead and jet back up top where I can give the rest of my review. All right, guys, moving on to the setup here. I'm going to go ahead and give the setup a 9 out of 10. I think the setup here is excellent, right? Excellent setup. Essentially, it's super fast, super easy. You're just giving each player a board, each player their own deck of cards, and then having their palace cards. They set them up, they shuffle their deck of cards, you get all the tiles in the bag, put tiles out, and bam, determine the first player, and you are ready to go. Setup, maybe three to 5 minutes here. Setup is super, super quick, super easy. So excellent setup, 9 out of 10 for me. Moving on to the length. I'm going to go ahead and give the length an 8 out of 10 here. I think this is a great length for the game. On the box, it does say 40 minutes, and that does hold true. About 30 to 40 minutes, depending on your game. So we've been able to play this 2-player. We've been able to play it a lot. Those games last about 20 minutes, and then at 4 players, you're right around 40 to 45 minutes. Again, the turns are based on each individual player's deck of cards, and I do believe there's 20 cards in each deck, so there's only 20 turns. Each player has 2 cards in their hand at a time, and so it's once you get the flow of things, it's bam, I play my card, doom, doom, and you can even do some stuff simultaneously. Like, we've gotten to the point where I put my card down, I take my tile, I put my tile down, and as I'm moving my palace guard, Sierra does the same thing and puts her card down and takes her tile and refills the bag. She'll be refilling the board while I'm moving my palace guard and scoring, and then she'll put her card down. And so the game moves very quickly, and you can almost have some of those simultaneous turns, like they overlap a little bit. Now, that might not be the best way to play the game, but once you get familiar with it and you trust each other, that's what you can do there. So I think the length here is great. 8 out of 10. Moving on to the difficulty. As always, guys, remember the lower the difficulty, the easier we feel the game is. The higher the difficulty, the harder we feel the game is. I'm going to go ahead and give this a 3 out of 10. Look, I think this game is very simple, easy to teach. It does say 8+ here on the game. The only thing about the game that can be somewhat confusing, and the 2 things that people usually get hung up on, is the first one, they always forget that these palace guards can move through other rows and columns in order to get to a spot in their row that they started in. That's usually something that you got to remind people a lot of the first couple times they play the game. And then, like I said, the iconography on some of the tiles compared to the cards, they can get confused at first, where it's like, hey, what tile is this? I don't see this tile out on the board. Other than that, the game is super simple and super easy to teach and pick up, right? It's essentially play a card, take that tile, put that tile in my row. If I already have that in the row of the matching color, I flip it over and can put it somewhere else. And you can't land on it, though, to score points. And I'm just trying to move my guys down to score the most points possible. I found this game very easy to teach, and a lot of people have picked it up. So 3 out of 10 for the difficulty for me. Moving on to replayability here. I'm going to go ahead and give the replayability an 8 out of 10. I think there is great replayability here with this game. This is one of those games that's clean, that's simple. It moves very quickly, and you enjoy it. And once you get the hang of it, you're like, man, let's go ahead and play it again. Man, let's go ahead and play it again. Man, let's go ahead and play it again. And so it really gives you that taste and that feeling where you want to sit down, play this game about 2 or 3 times in a row, and you're going to be able to enjoy it. So replayability here, an 8 out of 10. All right, moving on to the price, okay? Moving on to the price here. So I backed this on Kickstarter for $40. That's what the Kickstarter price was. The cheapest I have seen it online is the Sleeve Kings Imperial Publishing website for $50. The only other prices I've seen on eBay is like $89 or $60 or something like that. So looking at the non-Kickstarter price here, the cheapest I found is $50. At that price point, I'm going to go ahead and give this a 6 out of 10. I think that is not a good price point at all. I do think even feel a little bit at $40. I think I overpaid a little bit for this game, just in terms of the value of what you are getting. When you look at this essentially, right, you are comparing this to Azul and Carcassonne and things like that, and the price point of Azul and Carcassonne compared to this game is so much higher. Yes, the box is bigger, right? But what are you really getting? You're getting a giant board, which I mean, the cost of the board is what's driving the price of these boards, or is what driving the price of the game up. But you have generic meeples, right, that match just like Carcassonne, right? You're not getting fancy, cool, vibrant tiles like you are in Azul. So I really don't see a lot of value here with the game being at 40 or higher than 40. I think if you could find this game later on down the line, you know, pick it up around 35-ish. I think that's a great price point for the game, and anything below that, I would definitely look at it there. But from my perspective, with the components, the overall value of what you are getting, I feel at that $50 price point that is being sold right now at retail is just too expensive, and I would go ahead and stay away for right now. All right, last thing, let's move on to my overall rating here. I'm going to go ahead and give this game an 8 out of 10, all right? Look, I think this is a great game overall, okay? Let's talk about, is it the Azul killer, okay? Is it this Carcassonne but fun? In my personal opinion, I don't think it's the Azul killer, but I do actually prefer this game over Azul. Is it Carcassonne but fun? I think that's a borderline one, right? I think for me, the cool thing about Carcassonne is building out your entire city or village. Here, everything is kind of already built for you. You're just kind of putting tiles over the garden and kind of building your own garden. There's not a lot of creativity here because you already have like a blueprint down where you can put stuff. So I think that one's a meh, but I do think, for me personally, I will say I do enjoy this game better than Azul, and I do enjoy this game better than Carcassonne, right? I think for me is, number one, I'm not as creative as Sierra or a lot of people are, and so I work better with that blueprint, having to know exactly where I'm going, or like all the different options. Carcassonne for me, it just gets overwhelming because I have so many options of where to put this tile and create that. Azul, kind of the same thing, right? It's like, man, like, why I like it better than Azul is because, you know, I get my butt kicked by Sierra a whole lot. But for me, I just grasp and understand this game better. Not to say that I don't grasp and understand Azul, but the strategy for Azul with me is a little more complicated because you have 5 different tiles, essentially, that you're drafting, and then once you put them in the rows, they're stuck there, so you can't put anything else in the rows. Here, I'm only selecting one tile at a time, so I have a much easier time of planning ahead. But for me, it's a great game. I do love it. I love how quick the game plays. I love how clean and simple the game is. It gives me that Euro feel, right? That Sanssouci, building the garden, building the palace. It really has that Euro vibe, but it's not as long as most heavy or big Euros are. And so it's just a clean, simple game. Nothing super deluxe about it, nothing super fancy, but it has those mechanics of Azul and Carcassonne that I enjoy. The tile laying and the drafting. So that is it for me, an 8 out of 10. All right, moving on to the last segment here, guys. If I had the opportunity to back this game all over again, would I back it? Yes, even though I said at that $40 price point, I think I did overpay for it. I would go ahead and back this game again because, again, I really do enjoy this game. If I had the option between this, Azul, and Carcassonne, I would pick this game every single time, and I would be more apt to want to get this to the table than Azul and Carcassonne. But all right, guys, look, those are my thoughts and opinions. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? Please go ahead and drop that down in the comments and tell me what you think about the game. Go ahead and drop a like, help us out. And as always, if you want to help support our channel, please go ahead and subscribe. If you're already subscribed, we thank you so much. We appreciate you. Tell your friends to subscribe and hope they enjoy our content as well. All right, guys, as always, y'all have a great one. Bye.